As Thrust SSC first broke the existing record, then boomed past a sound barrier. An American team set up nearby aiming to beat the Brits were among the first to offer their congratulations. The record set by Malcolm Campbell in Bluebird back in the 20s, then by Donald Campbell in the 60s, remained in British hands, with Andy Green now the proud owner of the title, the fastest man on Earth.
Thank you very much indeed, Richard Brock. Andy Green and his girlfriend Jane Millington are with us right now. Congratulations, Andy.
Thank you very much indeed.
And congratulations, Jane, too. And in fact, Jane had a key role in the operation. Can you just explain that, first of all?
Yeah, very much. What we went out to do was not just to break the world land speed record, and indeed to set the world's first supersonic record, but to actually do it safely. And that required a very great, very high level of coordination and control to ensure that safety, to make sure that everybody was in the right place at the right time, that every single vehicle was cleared to roll only when it was safe, and that included myself. All of that was run through the most experienced professional we could get hold of, and that was Jane as a Royal Air Force fighter controller.
Well, congratulations to both of you. Now, we've got here some of the magic moments of that great... over here, there's a monitor over here. Look, you can just about see it, hopefully. Let's take a look at the first of these two clips.
450. Let's go. 550. Looking for max.
Now, which run was this? Do you recognise this run?
50.
Oh, that'll be a bit of a good giveaway, possibly, if it continues. No.
The speeds are clear. I think this is probably the end of September, the first 700-mile-an-hour record.
And that was indeed, that's correct. If this was a question of sport, you would have won, won the prize. Now, we saw that there. What are the tensions in there? Are they closer to flying an aeroplane or closer to driving a very, very fast car? I mean, it's obviously somewhere in between, isn't it?
Exactly so. It's a combination of the two. The performance of the vehicle is obviously very much related to fast jets, and I'm a fighter pilot in the Royal Air Force, so I can say with some confidence, yes, it's like flying a fast jet, but not entirely like flying a fast jet. It handles like a car, it has the problems of a car, it's got wheels like a car, it steers through the wheels. So it's very much a blend of the two technologies.
And in terms of driving it and so on, is there a particular greater sense of fear? You were talking about safety there. Now, I mean, obviously, aeroplanes now are pretty safe and so on, but this was uncharted territory. You didn't necessarily know what it was going to feel like when you broke the sound barrier, did you?
We have a very, very remarkable team of people, led principally by Ron Ayres, our aerodynamicist, who used to work on missiles at one time. A lot of people say all he did is turn one of his missiles on its side and put wheels on it, but he did a very great deal of research to find out what was actually going to happen to this car, to make sure that we weren't going into uncharted territory completely, that we had a very good idea of what was going to happen. The second thing we did was had a very remarkable team of people, led by Jeremy Bliss as our systems engineer. He's ex-Formula One. He found that the small, slow cars that go around in circles are a bit boring for him, so he was after a more interesting challenge. We were running 120 sensors on the car for every run to actually find out exactly what's happening. And the reason it took us 6 weeks to get up to the speed of sound is that every single run was just a little bit faster than the one before. And then we'd look at that, say, OK, is it safe? Is the car on the ground? Look at all the shock waves. We were measuring 35 different shock waves around the car, and actually looking at the positions, making sure they were stable, making sure the car would stay safe, and then saying, right, that was fine at, say, 720 miles an hour, Mach 0.96.
Here, now I think this was when you broke the sound barrier.
That looks about the speed. It sounds about right too.
Right?
That does sound like the way we broke the sound barrier. The most remarkable thing about this run was getting to the end of the track, and for the first time ever, rather than having to wait for the timekeepers, the USAC timekeepers, to actually read out the time, I arrived at the end of the track and stopped the car, and the recovery crew ran up to me, and they were jumping up and down and clapping. And I couldn't work out why, because they couldn't have known how fast I drove. And it suddenly dawned on me, they heard the sonic boom 5 miles away, for the first time ever.
Incredible. And when you get to the end of a run like that, you're at full speed. How long a space does it take to break down to stop?
Well, we had a 13-mile track. The one measured mile in the middle, which we're actually timed through, and that's the two-way average we have to get within an hour for the record. And then it's a 6-mile run-up, which the car normally only needed about 4 or 5 miles of run-up until the very, very high-speed runs when we're using the full 6.5-mile run-up. And it was the car would then slow down again in about the same sort of distance, about 6 miles, using brake parachutes initially, and then the very high-speed Dunlop carbon disc brakes on the car.
And what do you think, Jane? And can it go on being safe? I mean, is there any limit? Is there a limit on how fast anyone will be able to go doing this?
Well, provided they adopt a similar approach to this team, I think people will go forward. But it has to be done, as Andy was saying, in small incremental steps with data analysed at every step forward. Nothing was left to chance in Thrust. The team analysed every possible sensor and data recording mechanism on the car before allowing it to go forward. That's why I was not anxious during the runs. The only time I was anxious was in the 1-hour turnaround record days. That was quite stressful.
Well, what about the future, Andy? Are you going to go back to try and beat your own record?
No, I'm going back now to the best job in the world, which is flying fighters for the Royal Air Force.
You are, and you've done this, but so if other people attempt to break your record, you won't be lured back to reclaim it.
Certainly not this week. Ask me again in 5 years' time.
Ask you again in 5 years' time. Leaves 5 years of preparation and so on. But I mean, is there a limit to how fast you could go? I mean, there must be. There's a limit to how much you can clip off the 100 metres record. I guess there is a. Is there a limit to how fast people can go like this?
We're fairly close to the limit of technology right now. Our car was designed to do just over 800 miles an hour. We actually stopped with a peak speed of about 780, simply because weather, time, money, we had achieved what we wanted to achieve. There was no purpose in really impressing much more. We had the world's first supersonic land speed record. We'd achieved it, we came home. We could have gone above 800 with more technology. Knowing what we know now, you could build a 1,000-mile-an-hour car, but I think the technology and the sheer money involved, it would take you about 20 years to do it.
20 years. Well, thank you both for coming along. How fast did you drive here this morning?
Somebody else drove. It was foggy outside. It's
foggy outside. No attempts by our drivers, I hope, on a land speed record this morning. Thank you both very much indeed. It's been a delight to have you with us, and congratulations.
Thank you.
On behalf of us all.